Good morning. Now, whether you're a regular viewer of this page or whether you've just dropped in today, you're very welcome. This week we're looking at a promise that God made to Solomon almost 3,000 years ago. Now, although the promise was made a long time ago, it still holds good today. Why? Because it's a promise that was made looking forward to an uncertain future, a future of difficult times like this. This is what it says about finding ourselves in difficult times. This is 2 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 14, and I'm taking it from the New International Version. It says this: "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land." So far we've looked at the first part of the verse that says, "If my people." That's the bit we need to do. But now we're going to move on to look at what God promises he will do. But before we do that, let's just think about promises. We all make them every day, I suspect. And I'm sure that when we make them, normally we have good intentions of following through and delivering on our promise. Now, sometimes we might make promises for different reasons. For example, if somebody's really giving you a hard time over something, they're pressing you to do something, you might say something like, "Yes, I will, okay, just leave it with me." Now, when we say that, do we really intend to ever actually do it? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Sometimes we might make a promise to buy ourselves time. You know, the sort of thing. "Yes, I will do that when I've got time." Now, I suspect a few of those sorts of promises have come home to roost in recent weeks. I know some of mine have. But what's the difference between our promises and the ones that God makes? The obvious difference is that his are 100% reliable. We can be certain that he will do what he says he will do. And in challenging times like these, that certainty can give us reassurance, rest, joy, and hope for the future. So today we're going to look at the first two parts of what God promises he will do when times are difficult. The part that goes, "Then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin." That little word "then" is very important. Firstly, it sets the context. It's the link between the conditions that God has set out and the promise that he's about to make. So God's saying, "If you will, then I will." That word's also important because it gives us a sense of the timing or the order in which things must happen. If we've done our part, met the conditions, then, and only then, God will do his part, and that's his promise. So with those conditions and that sequence of events in mind, let's have a closer look at the first two parts of what God promises to do. Firstly, he says, "I will hear from heaven." Now that's really important, and I find that a really reassuring part of the promise. God is promising to be there for us no matter what. And because he's there, he will listen to our prayers. We're not alone, folks. He hasn't and he won't abandon us, whatever the circumstances. His promise is clear. If we turn to him and pray, he will listen to our prayers. That's the first part of the promise. The second part says, "I will forgive your sin." Now, he promises this forgiveness as long as we meet the conditions, the ones he's already set out. Admit our sins, ask for forgiveness, and change our ways. But notice as well that forgiving our sin comes before the final part of his promise to heal our land. And that's really important too, because God is saying we have to make the first move. We have to ask for a clean slate and a fresh start before he can and will do his part. So there we have it. God set out his conditions and the order in which things can happen. If we will, then he will. Now that means the key to unlocking the fulfilment of God's promise is in our hands. The question is, are we ready, willing and able to meet the conditions? Because one thing's for sure, if we are, then God is ready, willing and able to hear our prayers and forgive our sin. And that's a promise. Have a good day, everybody, and God bless you.